The Diddy trial started off like any other day. Nobody could have predicted what would happen when Monique, yes, that Monique, took the stand, despite the reporters' hurried arrival and whispers about what shocking revelation may come next. Her relationships with Diddy, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Bishop T.D. Jakes left the courtroom frozen, and what was once thought to be a decades-long Hollywood rivalry abruptly turned into a federal testimony. She delivered more than simply words. She brought audio, timelines, receipts, and the kind of reality that got people to pay attention. Everything we believed to be true about this trial was altered when Monique was finally permitted to speak under oath about what she had been warning us about for years. On the sixth day, the gallery was already full before the doors even opened. Reporters were lining the corridor, waiting to see what headline might be written. They were not prepared for the Oscar-winning actress, comedian, and vocal Hollywood critic Monique to enter through the side door with a calm but assured demeanor. Diddy's lawyers looked at each other. With new eagerness, prosecutors rearranged papers. The air grew heavier. Her name was not on any anticipated witness list, yet the atmosphere in the room shifted as soon as she entered the stand. Diddy was clearly tense and wearing a charcoal suit. He leaned closer to his attorney and spoke in a somewhat bewildered whisper. Sketch artists documented the moment his characteristic stoicism wavered. Despite the fact that cameras were not permitted in the room, his jaw tightened, his eye twitched slightly. From the first syllable, Monique's voice was firm and she sat up straight. "I plan on speaking the truth, as I was asked to do here." She had been warning the world about what went on behind Hollywood's velvet curtains for years. She had shared tales of being excluded by Lee Daniels, Oprah Winfrey, and Tyler Perry. People dismissed it, accusing her of being resentful and exaggerating. But now that she was sitting in a federal courtroom on oath, those same warnings were being taken very seriously. She produced a timetable which the judge allowed her to read from. It documented her own interactions with the people who are now orbiting this trial like vultures. The precise times of phone conversations, meetings, failed promises, and proposals made in private rooms under false pretenses of opportunity. Prosecutors nodded in agreement, with several already citing Cassie Ventura's prior testimony notes. Suddenly, the trial was about more than just Diddy. Monique did not specifically target Diddy with her second statement. Tyler Perry was the target, and it made a missile-like landing. In 2018, she recounted a private phone conversation with Perry in which he acknowledged that her expulsion from Hollywood had been unfair. Monique testified that he informed her he was mistaken. He promised to issue a public apology. He didn't. She claims that Perry instead warned her that if he apologized in public, it would be seen negatively by those who were not prepared to be made public. That is who he was worried about, Monique stated, glancing straight at the jury when asked who he was referring to. Daddy Puff. Call him whatever you want. Those watching the courtroom gasped. The prosecution team even looked at each other. It was more than simply a drama. It might have been proof of collaboration inside the sector. Monique added that Perry told her he could not take the chance because too many people were bound by too many NDAs. She went on to show a documented transcript of a call in which Perry informed her that there were things happening that she could not publicly link to. At Puff's gatherings, we have all witnessed things that we are not allowed to discuss. The judge prohibited the audio for the time being pending authentication, but permitted the text to be admitted into evidence. It was more than just the accusation that gave this moment its impact. It was the terrifying insight that several high-ranking Hollywood figures might have been aware of what was taking place at Diddy's parties, but chose to keep quiet in order to safeguard their own reputations. Diddy's defense team protested right away, saying Monique's testimony was conjectural. However, the prosecution made a strong case that it gave the required background on how Diddy was shielded for years by his silence and reputation management, which may have made abuse easier. Then, the moment that really made people take notice arrived. After adjusting her microphone and taking a deep breath, Monique uttered the words that would make headlines by the end of the hour. "At one of Diddy's parties, I saw something I should not have seen, so I left." According to her testimony, she received an invitation to a private event in Los Angeles in 2006. Monique arrived at a huge Hollywood Hills estate. Her phone was taken by valets. They let her inside. R&B music was playing softly, lights were lit, and both male and female guests were escorted into back rooms in turn. I recall a man wearing only a bathrobe and a woman wearing heels. One of Diddy's aides once told me, "It is all about experience here. You are secure. I went away when you signed the NDA. She did not sign. She never returned." Then came murmurs. For significant parts, Monique said that her phone ceased to ring. Film festival invitations stopped coming in. She never forgot that night, and she always thought that her leave had made her a liability, even after hearing from a producer that she was being difficult. She was questioned by the prosecution about whether she thought this kind of thing happened frequently at Diddy's gatherings. She gave a nod. "I believe it was planned out like a system, and I was excluded when I did not comply." What Cassie Ventura and others had mentioned was reflected in her testimony. Luxurious hotels masquerading as networking hotspots, candlelit rooms, camera setups, and adventures with paid escorts. However, Monique's perspective as a well-respected actress rather than a subordinate was what set her account apart. She entered on her own terms and left with her career gradually coming to an end. Monique did not hesitate to answer the prosecution's question about whether she thought Tyler Perry had deliberately defended Diddy's reputation. "I think it was planned, deliberate, and part of a bigger effort to keep things quiet," she said. She mentioned a now famous incident that a lot of people watched on social media. In front of the entire congregation, Tyler Perry walked into Bishop T.D. Jakes' megachurch and wrote $1 million check. Monique added, "I saw a transaction, but people saw it as a blessing. That donation served as damage control as well as charity. People like Diddy use that church as a shield to form alliances that give them an air of invincibility." The murmuring began in the courtroom. Even the judge looked up to see the jurors scrawling wildly. Monique claimed that a number of gossip blog reports concerning Diddy and his parties were subtly fading around the same time as Perry's church gift. "I was aware at the time that people were being suppressed, persuaded, and paid. Jakes was not the only recipient of those $1 million. It was for the sake of peace. It was for quiet." Photos presented by the prosecution revealed that Perry and Diddy appeared together at a BET event a few weeks after that donation, smiling broadly and putting their arms around each other, as if there were no suspicions flying around. It provided evidence to back up Monique's assertion that Diddy was not only protected, but also exalted by the entertainment business. Then she stopped and turned to face the judge. "You see, I no longer fear getting blackballed. I have experienced it. I will tell you something too. The greatest cost any of us incurs is silence. We have all paid for it too." The courtroom fell silent as she continued her testimony. Monique took a printed copy from inside her bag. "This is the call where Tyler Perry acknowledged his mistake," she stated. Whispers, gasps. For years, Monique had said that Tyler Perry had privately expressed regret for the treatment she received following the priceless fallout. Now, however, she was stating it under oath and supported by a transcript. The conversation was captured on tape. "He was aware. I informed him. He claimed to be okay with it." The bailiff took the documents from her and gave them to the judge. After looking over the top lines, the judge nodded to allow the prosecution to proceed. According to the transcript, Perry admits that he made a mistake. "You were never challenging." The transcript was declared acceptable by the judge, an enormous victory for the prosecution. Additionally, Diddy's lawyers appeared obviously frightened. Just now, a casual phone call turned into government evidence. Subsequently, a name that had not yet been introduced in this trial caused a stir in the room. Winfrey, Oprah. Monique did not mention her in passing. She raised a point with her. "I shared a personal story with Oprah in 2010 that my brother had mistreated me as a child. I would never take advantage of that," she replied. "However, she did. My brother was featured on her show, and she did it immediately after I declined the coveted press tour." The courtroom was unsure on how to handle that. It was sentimental. Monique was not finished, though. "I was betrayed by her. She said that it was business when I inquired why. However, I was aware of the reality. They were attempting to silence me." After that, she changed course and linked Oprah, Perry, and Diddy by pointing out that they all use mutual handlers, PR crisis teams, and NDAs. "Messes are cleaned up by the same individuals in each of them," she gave a statement. "And the reason I know this is because I was unintentionally forwarded an email chain by one of those PR representatives, one in which the subject line contained the names of Tyler, Puff, and myself. It had to do with handling optics." The judge reviewed the redacted copy of that email that she gave him. However, the message was unambiguous. Protecting Diddy was not the only goal of the power structure. It was planned. NDAs were signed. Individuals were compensated. Depending on who cooperated, careers were either buried or built, and Monique exposed it for what it was while sitting under oath, a device designed to quiet anyone who dared to raise inquiries. She closed her binder while the jurors looked on. She never broke her tone. She was not startled. She was not obliged to be, because she was not merely narrating her narrative for the first time. She was giving testimony. After a brief break, the court reassembled, and Monique did something that no one had anticipated. "Now, let us talk about the list," she remarked calmly after taking a deep breath. Once more, the room fell silent, eager to to hear her words, the prosecution leaned in. A Hollywood list exists. Although it is not documented, everyone is aware of its existence. It is the list of individuals you avoid criticizing, the untouchables. That list included Puff. That list included Tyler, Oprah too. She almost made it. She clarified that this list was an imperceptible border rather than a real document. Even if you had evidence to support your criticism, you were instantly branded as difficult, insane, or even worse, a threat to the industry. According to Monique, she has been battling her way back since 2010 when she found herself on the other side of that line. She brought up names, but with context rather than accusations. Do you not find it odd that so many people who worked with Diddy, Tyler, and Oprah abruptly vanished? She said. Actors who had one successful program, one award season buzz, and then vanished were mentioned by her. Not all of them participated in the game. A few of them declined. And some of them saw things they were never supposed to see, she whispered, lowering her voice. In a brief statement censored for protection, the former actor told the court about a retreat given by a strong male filmmaker where unusual rituals were observed, contracts were signed, and phones were stolen. Monique did not reject the inference, but she also did not say it was Tyler Perry. She allowed the jurors to remain uneasy. Monique's message was clear, even if the judge reminded everyone that these were accusations. The industry was safeguarding secrets rather than art, and the price of being honest. They will take away your peace, your career, and your reputation, leaving you to tell everyone why your phone never calls again. Monique responded, yes, not at first, but gradually. Yes, when asked directly if she thought Diddy was responsible for the destruction of her career. It was not until years later that I realized how deeply she felt this. She clarified that a junior executive who had previously worked at Diddy's media venture, Revolt TV, called her when the blackballing started, following the priceless campaign fiasco. I cite him when he says, "You rubbed the wrong people." It goes beyond Tyler and Oprah. Puff also dislikes noise. The court inclined. According to Monique's testimony, the executive implied that Perry's team had asked Diddy about potential future project collaborations. It was an easy deal, she remarked. They wanted to use Puff's platforms, but I stood in their way. She claimed that Perry and Diddy had several private meetings, which she later learned about through their mutual acquaintances. They talked about my name as an issue, not his talent. Then, for the first time, the court witnessed a clear digital connection between the two women's reputations being meticulously handled simultaneously. The prosecution produced emails between a PR firm that Revolt and Tyler Perry Studios had hired to manage narratives around Monique and Cassie Ventura. It was a powerful moment. Monique went on to claim that she thought the term difficult was deliberately used. Like a virus, they utilized that word. It spreads to all casting directors if it infects one. They already have an excuse to refuse when your name is called in a room shortly after. She then made a statement that very few people in Hollywood ever make while testifying under oath. No one blackballed me. They whiteballed me. By black people, people who resembled me, and individuals who were more concerned with keeping their own place than with doing it correctly. With a calm but weary voice, Monique started, "I did not want to be here. However, I had to be because unless someone has a microphone louder than theirs, what they did to Cassie, to me, and to young women and men now will not stop." She described how 2 months earlier, the prosecution had contacted her and she had originally refused. "I was not going to go through it again," she added, "was not going to reveal my family, my suffering, or my trauma once more. I later saw the Prince recording though. I witnessed Diddy yelling in court. Cassie broke down on the stand and I witnessed it." She claimed to have broken at that point. Monique said she had a spiritual epiphany when she decided to testify. "Baby, do not let them write your tale without you in the room," my grandmother's voice said. "I was aware that I had to arrive." Her last moments on the witness stand were heartbreaking. In your perspective, Ms. Jackson, what was the underlying reason for this entire system of silence? The prosecution questioned. Fearfully, Monique replied, "In this sector, everyone is afraid. People like Puff, Tyler, and yes, Oprah have made it very costly to speak the truth, so they are afraid of losing their jobs, deals, relevance, and their jobs. You thought nobody would talk, that you established an empire big enough to silence everybody," she whispered softly, turning to face Diddy. "When I spoke after being instructed not to, my work stopped. Be thankful, you are fortunate to be here." I was advised. Then she made a statement that even the prosecution was silent about. I have a phone call on audio. Tyler expressed regret for everything. Although he acknowledged his error, he chose not to go public. It would wreck everything, he replied. She looked directly forward. I am done defending men who have never done so. No exhibit the courtroom had seen that week had the same impact as that one statement. All of a sudden, Diddy was not the only focus. It was about the whole power system that made it possible for him to operate without restraint. Monique did more than simply blame Diddy. She aimed it at the very Hollywood industry. Jurors were also looking past the man at the defense table for the first time during the trial. They were examining all those who had assisted him in remaining there.